Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to be talking about the adding the Leviathan and the Nighthawk SV into the tool head. The Spider Pro that came with the unit was throwing all different types of errors. When I set it up, it was throwing MCU errors, SP combo errors. There was errors on errors. Okay, so there was so many errors that some of the stuff I was able to mitigate through help with Esoterical and LTX Design. They were able to help me out to mitigate some of the issues. Like there was a timeout error. I believe if you go to the printer.cfg, the timeout is set at 600. Well, if you set that to 2000, the timeout error goes away. Gives it a little bit more time. Not sure if that was the Pi X86 issue or if that was something in the Spider board, but it seemed like something communication wise was taking a little longer than expected, and that's what was going on there. Some of the times it would throw an SP combo error, and I was told check for check the cable to make sure nothing's getting crimped or something on the run of it. I tried to do that multiple times. It would randomly come up. There was no rhyme or reason what would happen, and some of the stuff was just very unreliable. I had a print that, well, first off, let me start off by saying that I was printing for about a week. I had 3 to 4 successful prints, and then the last one that I had enough with it was a 3-day print with 20 hours left. It had failed, so it was a very big print. It was something that was kind of crucial. I needed that part, and I was like, I'm done with it. I'm changing out the MCUs and going from there. So I chose the Leviathan and the Nighthawk SB board. In that conversion, again, not only was this my first printer build, but it was also my first rebuild of the MCUs, and I had to flash everything with Catapult and then flashing Clipper with Kyle, and however you say that. So yeah, that was my first build and rebuild of the MCUs, of flashing the boards and all that different jazz. So it was definitely an interesting experience. When I had first got the Leviathan board, because I had it when I got this unit in anticipation of switching it out because I had heard such horrible things about it. I had thought I pre-flashed everything. I thought I pre-flashed the Leviathan and the Nighthawk board. When I went to set it up, nothing was pre-flashed. I had to reflash everything because I did it wrong. So again, that was something that took a little bit of time and understanding. Now that I understand that the Pi has to be set up with Catapult to be able to flash, the Leviathan and the Nighthawk, that's kind of, it made it more understanding of the breakdown of what exactly was going on. So you set the Pi up with the Catapult, and then you configure the Clipper file that you're going to be flashing to the MCU, and then you flash the MCU with the STM, the bootloader rate, and all that stuff. So it made a little bit more sense once I kind of figured out like the workflow, I guess you could say, of how it's actually doing it. And then everything talks to each other once you get the USB, because all this is USB now. So it's all communicating USB. So the USB is configured in the printer.config of the Nighthawk and the Leviathan. You take the USB ID and you input those into there, and then it really helps, kind of knowing what you're doing. But since I didn't, it took a little bit. But now I get to tell you that I didn't know what I was doing, and it wasn't that bad, okay? It took a little bit of working around and figuring out and really reading about things and asking questions to people. So everybody that helped out, super appreciate you. But we'll go through. This is something that I put together. I had went through and printed these documents off of the GitHub. Okay, this is for the Leviathan, and kind of labeled everything. You can see these white with, okay, stepper A, stepper B, all the motors here. you know, the thermistors over here, and then the bed thermistors over here, or the bed controls over here. When you do the bed controls, going to the Leviathan from the Spider Pro, okay, there is a ribbon cable that I'll show you here in a second. There's a ribbon cable that has the 4 cables that come out of the SSR that actually turn the beds on and off. And then there's one of them is a red wire that's 24 volts. That only needs to be hooked up to one of those, and then the rest are just PWM ports that you can go ahead and put in there. So I'll go ahead and I'll show you the Leviathan hooked up, and I also went and created a bracket that mounts to this control panel. Modified it. That is on the GitHub. I put that on that might be under Fysetc's channel, that I had put that on there for the Venture the 600 millimeter. You'll see that channel. It is on there somewhere. It was probably about a week ago now that I put that on there, but it is all on there. There's 2 fan standoffs, and then the Leviathan, the board mount. Okay, so let me show you. So we'll go ahead, and there is the mount that I created. You can see the green back here. That's the mount, and it's converted from their mount to now the Leviathan. So you can see where their mount plugs in right there with those 2 screws. And then there's a little standoff on there. Okay, that there's a heat set in there for the Leviathan to mount to that board. And then there is right about, let's see, there is the top of the fan mount, and then right under there you can see that there's another mount for the fan with the heat insert in there. So you just take the same 24 volt fan and mount it right over it. There's the Raspberry Pi with that mount and that put on there. So what I noticed too is I thought that all the communication from the Pi to the MCU of the Leviathan was all through this ribbon cable right here. Well, it's not. You have to have the USB that comes with it hooked up to the Pi and to the USB-C on the Leviathan to be able to communicate to each other. So this is everything here, and then you have down here you have your thermistors for the beds, and then you have your bed controls. Okay, so what I was talking about is this ribbon cable here comes out of the SSR. The red one in my case, just double check on yours. The red one in my case is the power. So I have that hooked up to that one right there. As you can see, that one has power, and then the other one is right there, and then there's another one there, and then one over here in the side that you can kind of see right there, that yellow one. So those just use the PM or the PWMs to control those. And then you have a 24 volt power that goes here up to the Meanwell 24 volt. And then you have the 48 volt for the A and B steppers that goes to the 48 volt Meanwell there. So yeah, once you map it out and everything is really set, then it's really good. I mean, it kind of lays a blueprint. It's almost like looking at a map, really, when you think about it. It's almost like looking at a map, okay? Mapping it out before you do it. It's proper planning prevents piss poor performance. So that's what I did, is I mapped it out, made me feel real comfortable about it, get that warm fuzzy feeling inside. These right here, these are the 2 fans for the A and B motors, which I don't have hooked up. I guess I heard that you really don't need those. That's kind of not really something that is normal, I guess you could say, because they're high temp. These are for the LEDs, which I have not hooked up yet. So again, something that I will be hooking up in the future. I have them up there. You can see up in that corner, it's just wadded up and it's ready to go. Same thing in this corner. You can't really see that, but yeah, something that was, it was kind of fun, you know. And then I have the HDMI port here, because when I took out the SV or the SV combo and the Spider Pro, the Spider Pro had a special ribbon cable that went to the screen. So what I had to do was take I had a 10-inch screen HDMI laying around, luckily, that I was able to use that. So this is the HDMI here, and then it also has the USB in, which you can only see one right here because I do have a USB hub right under there that I had added, a wave share. So that has the beacon, the touch on it, the webcam, and the tool head board all attached to it. And then you take from right here, you take that 24 volt and then you attach it to the Meanwell 24 volt right up here. And then that kind of makes everything work together and powers it and everything. So it's really nice to have that to unload some of the stuff that's on the Pi to that and get some external power to it so it's not bogging down the Pi at all. And now we will move to the unit. So here's the screen that I told you about. Okay, 10-inch screen, beautiful screen. I love this screen. I know a lot of people, said, oh, you don't need a screen. They don't want a big screen. I think it's great. The one thing I do agree with that I might do is I might take this and I might move it to that corner and mount it over here and then move my little jig that I made for all my tools. I might take that and put it in the front. Just so I can better reach in there without this going in here. But so far it hasn't been a problem, or I might offset it one way or the other. If I do have to reach all the way in, then it's a little bit of a problem. Okay, then the one thing I have is I went umbilical. I got rid of the drag chains, which I was kind of upset I had to because I like the look of the drag chains. But they had to go because of the cable. The USB cable, I was getting, signal errors that it was connecting to the tool head board, then it wasn't, it was dropping connection. Once I put this cable on it and shortened the cable connection, it was fine. It was absolutely fine. But that was one thing that it would disconnect from the Nighthawk, and we didn't know why. At first we thought it was a problem with the resistors on the USB hub that's also mounted underneath that USB hub, but the Waveshare USB hub versus the Nighthawk USB hub that takes the signal and gets the power and sends the power to this. Okay, that's the difference there. But here is the Nighthawk installed, and you can see everything is installed. You have right here, you have your thermistor for the hot end, and you have your hot end power. You have your end stops back here, your USB line going back to the Nighthawk USB hub right there. And then on the top side, you have the extruder plugged in. So yeah, everything is plugged in. The fans. Now, let me just say one thing. When I was running this unit, and the fan was not kicking on at anything less than 100%. Okay, I'm talking about the part cooling fan. The part cooling fan was not turning on at anything less than 100%. What I had to do was, again, shout out to Jose from LDO on the LDO Discord and Del Mar. Okay, they helped me. Del Mar came in and found something in a previous post from Fabrico that it is on the LDO page that you have to set up the PWM pin on the part cooling fan for this Nighthawk SB. You have to set it up as a PWM and then tell it true and then set a cycle time or something like that. You can go check the Discord, or if you want to leave a comment down here, I can send you the two things that I had to add in there, because the documentation, from the way I interpreted it, was that A2 port, when you look at the SB or the Nighthawk SB GitHub, it shows the pin out. It shows A2 minus and a plus. Okay, and it also shows something that looks like A2 can be configured as a PWM or a TAC. Okay, and also when you look at the Nighthawk configuration that's on the GitHub, it shows that it's commented out as under TAC is commented out, but then the PWM looks like it's normal. Well, you have to set the value of that and tell it the PWM is true, and then the cycle time on that. So that was something that I needed help with and could not figure out until they had assisted. So shout out to them, appreciate you. This is the remix right there of what I had made. I had put my logo on there. The Bowden tube is eventually going to go in there. So you can kind of see that I got the umbilical. I'm using the plug connectors, which are phenomenal. They're 2-part connectors that you just print. They're really nice. I really like them. Right there, you can see it's really nice system. I really like it. And something I haven't mentioned before is since I went to the Nighthawk SB, I could no longer use Cartographer. Okay, so I went and got a beacon. Let's see if I can show you. There is the beacon. That cable also runs through there and then goes back there. The beacon has been great to show you. This is the first layer test, and what you see, the little chopping here, is it was so on the bed and so adheres to the bed. This is PETG, that when I was pulling it off, those chunks came off, but this was one entire sheet. Okay, so very good from the beacon. Really happy with it. I can't say that it's better than the Cartographer because I did not do that layer test with the Cartographer, but I can tell you that that is the best first layer that I've ever seen, at least on this machine. Okay, so yeah, just the couple little quirks. We went over the beacon, which the quick start guide is really good. I did not do the beacon contact because that is very difficult to understand and wrap my head around. Again, maybe that's just ill experience on my end or what, but there was a lot of stuff that I tried to read it and I tried to comprehend it, and it wasn't 2 + 2 wasn't equaling 4 for me. It was equaling 3. So I just didn't even bother with it. But the quick start guide was plenty good enough to go on there and get it done. And then once the new Bowden tube comes in, I'm going to put that back over there on that mount. And we got the webcam hooked up. And actually, the next time you see this unit in video is going to be when I do a video and I put Reaper on here. There's some kind of demon. I don't know if it's in... I know it's in the tool head, but I don't know if it's with the extruder motor, the parts that I had printed for it, or the hot end. But there's some kind of demon in this tool head that is really bugging me. So I have an Orbiter 2.5 and the filament sensor, the Orbitool, and we're going to put that all in a Reaper, and we're going to take the stealth burner off and put it in the Reaper. So that's going to be very interesting. I look forward to that. I had to remix for the Reaper. I won't go too much into that, but I had a remix to make the end stops. Something that's very important to me. I know people say, oh, I've been running, sensorless end stops for a while, and, it's great. Well, I don't like that. I physically like a switch to be able to tell it, okay, I'm good, okay, I'm not. I physically like the actual switch to be there. So yeah, I remixed it. It wasn't that difficult to remix and keep this mount here. But yeah, I'll talk about that more in the next video. So to sum up everything, this machine is 100% different in the best way that I can say by making the change from Spider Pro and SP Combo to the Leviathan and the Nighthawk. It is night and day. I don't get errors. This is how the machine is supposed to be a machine. Okay? It doesn't error out. I know what it's gonna do. There's sometimes where the fans turn off and I'm like, oh, did it just error out? Because I'm so used to the Spider Pro. The Spider Pro and the SP combo almost gave me some kind of anxiety that I'm so happy that it's gone. When I hear these fans shut off because they're actually doing what they're intended to do, it's like, whew. And the Spider and the SP combo, the fan would pulse at all times. Now there's sometimes when the machine, if it sits here, everything will go to sleep. The fans, all the fans will be off. The screen will actually power off and it'll just sit there until I come and touch it. It's actually incredible, the difference. If you do own this machine, something I highly recommend if you're struggling with the MCUs, change them out, because you will definitely appreciate this machine 10 times more, because it's 100 times better with this. Okay, I don't see any lagging, nothing. I'm not sure if that's because I have a Raspberry Pi 8 gigabyte in here. Again, something I had laying around. So some folks are like, oh, you don't need that big one, and blah blah blah. But I had it laying around, so why not? Okay, so that being said, if you liked the video and you learned something today, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and we will see you in the next video. Take care.